दी। Hi Kiranji, is it good to go?
It's a time to start. Yes.
Good evening everyone. I, Trupti Behel, Joint Secretary, Wiki Flow Uttarakhand Chapter, will give you a brief of our upcoming events. In July, we have Flow Harela Drive as our agricultural initiative under our chairperson Kiran Bhatt Tudoria and by our very own Vice Chairperson, Dr. Neha Sharma, Chief Coordinator, Agriculture Committee, in which we'll be planting 15,000 saplings in 4 districts in one single day. Then on 5th August, we are holding a webinar on cyber security and the pandemic era with guest speaker, advocate, and managing partner, TRS Law Offices, Ms. Talish Ray, under our Legal and Advocacy Committee headed by a member, Advocate Trishla Malik. Over to you, Gauriji.
Good afternoon, everybody. I, Gauri Suri, Secretary of Flow Uttarakhand Chapter, would like to welcome you all to our webinar session on the creative cycle and impactful cinema under the leadership of our chairperson, Ms. Kiran Bhatt Tudoria. I would also like to give a warm welcome to all our members of the Flow community pan-India, all past presidents pan-India, governing body members and other chapters chairpersons. I would also like to welcome Ms. Nazia Yusuf, our immediate past president, Ms. Komal Batra, our senior vice chairperson, Dr. Neha Sharma, vice chairperson, Ruchi Jain, our treasurer, Tripti Behel, our joint secretary, and Charu Chauhan, our joint treasurer. I would now request our chairperson, Ms. Kiran Bhatt, to address the viewers. Kiranji, over to you.
Thank you, Gauri. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome each one of you personally. I would like to welcome our past presidents, GB members, Army Chief past chairperson, Flow members from Pan India. Today we are going to talk about how the creativity gives us all the reason and all motivation for a constructive action. Film is a reflection of society, both present and past. Movies are a form of communication, and that communication, those stories, comes from society. Not just where society is presently and what it is doing now, but where society has been. It has been that way for as long as movies have been around. Cinema has a positive impact on society, and it helps us in connecting to people with other cultures. It reflects the issue of our society and makes us familiar with them. So here, I welcome our chief speaker, guest speaker of the day, Amitabh Singh ji. Sir, I would like to give you a very warm welcome once again. I would like to give a brief introduction about Mr. Amitabh Singh. He's done his Bachelor in Computer Sciences, Master in Mathematics from leading universities from Delhi and Banaras. He has joined a Japanese degree course at JNU towards further studies, which was interrupted, and after 1 year, since he got selected in the Premier Film Institute in India, which is Film and Television Institute of India in Pune for cinematographer course. After completing his FTII course, he has been practicing cinematographer in Mumbai. During the past 25 years, he has worked on many commercials, advertisement assignments, which we were seeing also, for leading Indian products, apart from a few international assignments. However, he himself identifies strongly with the thought of a social, responsible cinema, and he has been working in the independent cinema space right from the start of his career. Hosla Ka Ghosla was his first feature film, which proved landmark because of different set of humor. Then there is a movie called The Good Road. It's a Gujarati film produced and shot by Amitabh Singh ji. This movie won a national award too, and it is not that it just won a national award. It was the only official entry to Oscar awards in 2013 from India. He's got many awards and recognition. Few of them are Hosla Ka Ghosla, for which he got National Award for the cinematographer, सौ झूठ एक सच cinematographer, producer, independent. मेरा पहला पहला प्यार cinematographer for Percept. दे ताली for Sahara as a cinematographer. 2008 में आगे से राइट cinematographer, line production for UTV. Chiller Party, cinematographer for UTV, winner of the National Award. There's been many, many more to add on his list. Furthermore, he has been devoting considerable time and energies to foster an ecosystem that makes it to be conducive and sustainable for content designing for children and youth. A very warm welcome to you, Amitabh ji. Our today's day chair is Shweta Kulbe Joshi. She is a chief coordinator of Culture and Heritage Committee of Flow Uttarakhand. She is an accomplished textile designer by profession. Shweta has been experimenting across all forms of visual art to amalgamate into products, services, and learning platforms that induce holistic aspects of life and habitat. Having done extensive work on traditional arts of Uttarakhand and chikankari, zari, jardozi, to art therapy for progressive and holistic development, Shweta has been crisscrossing various platforms to instill creative arts as an integral part of learning and development for young minds. Carrying a multifarious experience from working with designers to launching her own end-to-end design studio, Shweta is complemented with her profound association with the Ananda Sangha and its progressive development learning, as a desire to infuse the innate element of art to nurture the human soul and its extended habitat. She brings Apricot Design Studio to the forefront as an initiative of extending her soulful experiments with a need to feed her own senses and spirit and foster the soulful creativity. She has also been exploring and reimagining the bounties of Mother Nature to replicate soulfulness into her line of products and service ranging from habitat interior and landscaping, wall arts, art therapies to home linen. A very warm welcome to you, Shweta. Now, I would like to invite our immediate past chairperson, Nazia, for a keynote. Nazia, over to you.
I just wanted to welcome and thank our event sponsor, Apricot, and our media sponsors, Kairos Consciousness. Nazia, over to you.
Thank you, Gauri. Thank you, Kiran. Am I audible? Okay. Um, a friend once told me art needs patrons. You know, the friend was an actor. He's a Bollywood actor, mainstream actor. So when he had come to curate one of the art programs we had done, he wrote me a check and he said, art needs patrons. You know, and it's a thought that has always been in my head for years and years. The fact that our society would have been so empty had it not been for art. And that is why, Kiran and Shweta, I want to congratulate you for bringing to Flow Uttarakhand our very first program in cinema. And Amitabh ji, I must tell you that it is on my favorite theme of cinema, cinematography. If there was no cinematography in cinema, we would have been watching yet another PowerPoint or yet another slideshow, you know. But capturing motion picture in all its beauty, you know, is so far and beyond photography in many ways, but also has to have such an element of photography in it. So it's a delight, Amitabh ji, to be able to have you here. We have so many questions for you. We're very, very thankful. And tell us about the beauty of cinematography, the art and the form and the skill, all three, and inspire these women to participate more and contribute more in the field of arts to enhance them and make themselves a better person. But also, we need patrons. Art needs patrons. So let's find more patrons. Thank you, everybody. I hope you really enjoyed this as much as I intend to. Thank you and welcome, everybody.
Shweta, over to you now. You may continue. Shweta ji?
Yeah. Hope I'm audible. Yes. Okay. Thanks, Gauri, and thanks a lot, Chairperson, Ms. Kiran Bhattacharya, and Past Chairperson, Ms. Nazia Yusufuddin, for a warm welcome note. While the famous poet and scholar Thomas Merton said, art enables us to find and lose ourselves, at the same time, Thomas Wolfe, a famous novelist, said, culture is art elevated to the set of belief. In our session today, we plan to dig a little deeper into the subject. We'll explore the touch points and how to reinvigorate and retain our creativity and be impactful in all areas of work that we've chosen. Amitabh ji, critically acclaimed movie cinematographer, who despite his impact on Indian cinema, loves to keep a low profile and I must say with contagious humility. A very, very warm welcome to you, Amitabh ji, and thank you for joining us today. I also extend my warm welcome to our esteemed guests online from across the country and parts of the world. So I start with my first question. We'll start with your growing up years, Amitabh ji, as you were born and brought up in Banaras.
Would extend my deepest and heartiest gratitude to the Sticky Flow Uttarakhand chapter, Chairperson Kiran ma'am, past Chairperson Nazia ma'am, and all the esteemed members who are present online right now with us. It is definitely a matter of great honor and privilege for me to find such a platform to be sharing my thoughts and ideas with you. Thanks to Shweta ma'am for facilitating this. Before we go further into our discussions, I would also take a moment to share my connect with Uttarakhand personally. Of course, earlier it was Uttar Pradesh, but now it is Uttarakhand. My grandfather, my mother's father, was a student of Roorkee Engineering College, which at that point of a time was called, it had some very British kind of a name. I think he must have been a student there in about 1930s or so. He was a civil engineer. Eventually, when he started his work and career, at some point of time in mid 60s, he was a project manager with BHEL, and it was him and his team who were the people who were first, responsible to set up the factory at Haridwar. So, one of my earliest memories, childhood memories, is going through the photograph album of the family, and I would see my grandfather, sitting in at that time they were all fields, and he would explain, "Kya re, wahan to khet hua karte the," and we would put chairs and we would sit in the middle of the fields, and then that's how the BHEL at Haridwar came up. And there are a lot of those photographs that we have in our family album, which which document how the whole plant came up there. So that was my connect 2 generations ago. To take another moment, very fortunately, my father, who started as a teacher with the UP government, and his first posting was in a school in Lansdowne, and that is from where his his career and his journey started. From Lansdowne, he came to Mussoorie, and then eventually he moved on, further in his life. So those are 2, sheets of history of my personal family from Uttarakhand, and I feel really blessed, that we share such a connect way down back in time. Banaras, of course, is my ancestral place, and a lot of my learnings and my inspirations definitely come from Banaras. Although eventually my father later on, he moved on to work with the central schools, which was with government of India. And then he started to get posted over many places across India, from Hyderabad to, and eventually with him, even me and family, I mean, all of us had to move from place to place. But when we talk about Banaras, one very important aspect or property of us growing up, our childhood, which is, you can say, most of it is, say, mid 70s, would be I summed up in an anecdote which I would like to share with you here. So you may know that Banaras is very well known for sweets, and especially jalebi, right? So what would happen often is that maybe once in a week or once in a 2 weeks time, we would get fresh jalebis first thing in the morning for our breakfast. And oftentimes it would be my responsibility to, go down to, to a neighborhood sweets maker and get freshly made jalebis for all of us. And that entire process of, having, to see the jalebi made in front of you was definitely one experience that one would cherish all the time. But far more than that, and what I wish to come to, the point that I wish to come to, is that that person who's making jalebi in Banaras would, in that whole process of, half an hour, 45 minutes of making jalebis, would, take up some doha or some chaupai from Tulsidas to Kabir Das to any of these, luminary minds. And that person making jalebi would do such a fine, introspective, insightful analysis of those 2 lines or 4 lines written by these, illuminous minds that, later on, they all add up into the bank of knowledges and wisdoms and experiences that we collected on the way. So the most important element of Banaras is that, especially during the years that we grew up around there, is that the whole city was a very, very vibrant and a culturally, literally, and artistically, elevated, alert kind of a city. Similarly, if one is having a rickshaw ride, from point A to point B, one would not be surprised if the rickshawala is actually singing a famous saint and is giving his own interpretation of what the saint means when the saint says something like this. So much of wisdom was in the fabric of everyday life in Banaras that I feel very, very fortunate to have been a part of it, to have witnessed and absorbed so many aspects of it during my growing up years. So that is my insight from Banaras for you.
Visuals, movies, and stories. The recent movie Masaan depicted the life and colors of Banaras. What part of Banaras played on your search for art?
Shwetaji, I think just in my previous explanation, as I said, that the whole city being so vibrant and all the people, I mean, most of the people that you come in contact with being so somewhere being so rooted or connected to forms of art or literature or expressions or so the thing is that to me Banaras is a place which always for me signifies a journey to go within, because I think that the whole city as such has a vibe whereby it is natural that people would like to go in an introspective mode, and that is where I feel that the city and its fabric of life helped me in a very, very big way to be introspective, to be able to think through and to be able to see through a lot of things which otherwise get disguised beneath surfaces and smoke screens.
Yeah, and many noted artists come from Banaras, and probably the vibe is such that you are inspired always to go within. I agree with you, Tavaji.
Yes, please. If you see Banaras, it's a very, very small place. It's like 3 kilometers by 3 kilometers kind of a patch of land, if you can look at it very, very objectively. But then you have people like Premchand, Jaishankar Prasad, Tulsidas, Kabir Das. So these are just a few names that I'm taking. It's just Ravi Shankar. Yeah. Girija Devi. Yeah.
Bismillah Khan, and they were all,
I mean, if we just keep on taking names, then it may run into hundreds of names.
I agree.
So the fact is that when such a small community, I mean, if such a community is contained in such a small zone of settlement, naturally the whole place starts to vibrate like that, and it definitely transmits itself to people who are there, who are absorbing it, and who are open to absorb such things.
We all want to. I mean, we get a call from Banaras so many times, but this is a journey. I mean, you've taken us there virtually. So we come on to our next question, Amitabh ji, compared to Hollywood and world cinema. No, sorry. We come on to cinema and cinematography now. You were into academics, and what made you take a shift from academics to cinematography?
Shwetaji, see, personally, I would not like to look at it as a shift. I would just like to see it as moving one step ahead, because as we all know, and I very strongly believe that cinema, like literature, good cinema, like good literature, good cinema, like any good art form, is actually an integral element of academics. It is an integral element of sharing and learning. And that is where I feel that, to bring this whole concept into a more practical realm, I feel that an example like Panchatantra is a fantastic example, whereby, you use or you apply stories because you want people to learn. So the fact is that cinema is actually educating people all the time. And it is now, if we talk about my early youth, which is say 80s or 90s, naturally at that point of time, it appeared to be a futuristic medium. But now it is the contemporary medium, right? That is the medium through which a lot of learning and a lot of transference of knowledge will happen. So the fact is that, frankly speaking, to me personally, because I definitely am very, very deeply devoted to academics, I never saw myself deviating away from that. Which means, again, coming to the practical inference of it, even when I passed out of the institute, within a year or two, I was holding workshops for students who were in the institute at that point of time. So the fact is that there has to be a very vibrant ecosystem of sharing and learning and transference of knowledge, especially between industry practicing professionals and learners, is something which I have very deeply believed in, and I am very, very committed to that. So that is the personal aspect of my belief into sharing of my knowledge and skills. That is one thing. But at the same time, it is also something which is backed by my belief that cinema or this audiovisual format is actually a very, very effective format for learning, or education, or for sharing or transference of knowledge. So yes, so it actually was not really a shift or a complete deviation from something that I always was very deeply devoted to. I just picked up this new knowledge, this new skill, and then tried how best I could use it or apply it for for knowledge and for learning.
But we have a lot to learn from you, Amitabhaji. Okay. I'm talking about Indian cinema now. Moments in Indian cinema that are very, very close to your heart.
That's profound, because we have a very, very rich and a very vibrant history of cinema in India. Even speaking on global perspective, India was possibly one of the first cultures which absorbed cinema in such a strong way. Also, possibly because we had a very, very strong culture of dance drama and other form of theaters which were very, very close to cinema. So there are many, many, many such moments in the journey of Indian cinema that are very, strong, and they are very, very, they are like turning corners, milestones for me. If I have to take one name, then I would take name of a film called Jane Bhi Do Yaro, which I feel is it just sums up, it just sums up everything that is cinema about, also in context of us as a country and a culture. Shweta ji.
I think Shweta may be having some issues with her network.
Yes, ma'am, it looks like that, yeah.
Yeah. Would somebody else like to ask something?
Yes, Komal will ask.
Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am.
Wonderful, thank you. So, compared to Hollywood and world cinema, Bollywood does not recognize children's cinema as a responsibility, sir. Do you think that the latest trend of OTT or the internet cinema can be that medium for the fluttering young minds here?
Okay, now this is a very deep and it's a very, very complex question. And naturally, for such a complex question, there cannot be a simple answer. What I could comment upon are possibly some set of observations. And these set of observations may also be very discomforting for a lot of us. Because as I said, that for any art, introspection is a very, very strong element. And since most of my observations will come from an introspective space, it can become uncomfortable. So one very common observation that I keep coming across all the time when one talks about the content that is available on OTT platforms, whether in India or abroad, is that almost all of it glorifies violence, nudity, use of foul language, and so on and so forth. So I don't know whether right now they are the spaces which are child-friendly spaces, or whether a child can be kind of allowed to go there. I don't know. I mean, I have my doubts. So the fact is that cinema, or let's call it audiovisual content, or we may call it films or web content or web series or whatever, they are essentially extensions of our social sensibility. At the same time, they are also reflections of our society. What is slightly more important for us to kind of note is its psychological space, and we know, or at least we believe in, that cinema is an aspirational medium, which means that what we see playing on the screens, whether they are OTT screens or whether they are cinema screens, what we see playing on those screens are things which are essentially aspirations of a mass society, because cinema is a mass medium. So, considering that, I feel the coming of OTT and these platforms, if they are any dipstick reflections of what our mass aspirations are like, then the mass aspirations are all about abusing and violence and nudity and things like that. And that to me is naturally transitory, because our space keeps changing very, very quickly and very fast. I hope it changes. But there cannot be shying away from the fact that that is what we are witnessing almost all the time on our screens at the moment. Having said that, as I had shared just a bit ago, that cinema is an extension and reflection of our society. The fact that not enough child-friendly content is being produced in our country is essentially a reflection of us as a society, which means that possibly we as society are so not so intent about or not so devoted about the cause of children and the kind of content that needs to be made for them.
Shweta's back. Shweta, would you want to get back on your series of questions?
Well, so before, if while we wait for Shweta to come back,
Yes,
I'll keep
yes,
the
Nadia.
dialogue going. So people understand cinema as a medium, but cinematography itself is an art and a craft, and is also a very important part of the medium that is films. I was hoping, that you could share with our audience here who may technically not understand the field of cinematography a little bit more about cinematography as a craft, as a business, as a medium, and as a skill, and what part of it that you enjoy brought you here, and how did you actually envision to be a cinematographer?
Thank you, Nadia. You have bundled many questions in there, and I hope I am able to do even part justice to to so much interesting questions that you have put in front. We'll start with the simplest. The entire medium of cinema exists because of cinematography. If there is no cinematography, there is no cinema. So the fact is that cinematography is having such a fundamental position in the medium of cinema because the whole medium exists because of cinematography. So that is where cinematography is, and that is what is its significance, in the whole scheme of things of a cinematic piece of work. Naturally, cinematography consists of quite a few skills put together. I would say that the most fundamental of the skills is one's intuitive understanding of compositions. By compositions, we mean that when we set up a particular canvas or a particular frame, then how that whole frame is being designed. So composition is naturally a very key element of cinematography. Cinematography is also about one's understanding of light, because photography or cinematography is essentially a language of light. We are writing. Graphy is about writing, and photo is, of course, light, and cinematography is writing with light in motion. So one's ability to understand light and its nature, its emotive qualities is very critical when it comes to cinematography. And then we come to the third very important aspect of skill factor here, which is the understanding of motion. Because in cinematography, what happens is that not only are the objects which are or the subjects which are likely to move, but it is also the camera which is likely to move. And then there are times when the camera and the object, both of them are moving. So the fact is that as cinematographers, we need to be very aware about what motion does to whole experience, to the compositions, to the light, and then to the entire visual language of that particular shot, and then naturally enlarging it to a particular scene, and then transposing it to the whole of the film. So as a cinematographer, one is required and trained and skilled to have an understanding of the presence of every visual in its immediate context, in its slightly bigger context, and in the largest context of the whole film. As you may know, that a film is it constitutes of many small components. Those components can be called scenes. The scenes are still constituent of many smaller components, which are shots, and then the shots are constituent of smaller components, which are known as frames. So, as a cinematographer, one needs to develop this ability to see every frame in multiple of its contexts. So that has to do with the skill of cinematography. And sorry, I forget your other question.
Yeah, I had a question about your journey, to becoming the cinematographer you are today. How did you start? And
so that's quite interesting. And for me, things started early in my childhood. It'll be slightly difficult to believe in this day and age. But when I was in class 3, class 4, class 5, we were posted. My father, we were posted in a place called Danapur, which is near Patna, and in our school there was a science exhibition where a traveling expert, he had come, and he had come with a small pack of a solution which which we had to apply to a piece of white paper and let that solution dry. And after the paper was dried with the solution, we would put a black and white negative on top of that paper. We would secure the negative with the rubber bands, and we would expose that negative and the paper to sunlight for about 15-20 minutes. And after 20 minutes, when you peel off that negative, on the paper below, one could see a positive image of the negative. And that was my first, tangible touch and feel experience with photography. And it had such deep impact on me that it stayed with me throughout. Yeah. So through my school, I was pursuing photography as a hobby. I would often run into the chemistry lab and try to make some solutions. In the college, it continued as a hobby, and then it is something which just grew deeper and bigger and stronger as I grew in age. And then I think I have been very, very fortunate and very lucky to find a place in the Film and Television Institute of India. I'm of a very firm belief that there is no other institution in the world which is like FTI in Pune. It is the institute, which picked me up and which saw the spark in me, and then it is going through that whole learning, training, education process of the institute, which turned me into a professional filmmaker. Had it not been for the institute, I would not have been here for sure.
I want to ask you like 3 sets of rapid fire questions. One is 5 movies where you've enjoyed cinematography the most. It can be from anywhere, any language, any era, but 5 of your favorite films for the cinematography of the film.
All right, Nadia, you are You are putting really difficult questions to me. Okay, so there is very, very, very famous cinematographer. His name is Mr. Sven Nykvist. He was from Sweden, and for me, he is an illuminous source of inspiration, all the time. So each of his work is a work which I admire and I hold very deeply in my heart. Starting with a film like Sacrifice, which was directed by Andrei Tarkovsky. It was made for the Film Institute, the Swiss Film Institute. So a film like that, to my mind, is something which is, an illuminating example of cinematography for me all the time. Then we come to another cinematographer who is an all-time favorite. He's an Italian person. His name is Vittorio Storaro. He would be a cinematographer who would have got an Oscar maybe 3 times or 4 times for the films that he did. The film which moved me very, very deeply, shot by him, is a film called The Last Emperor. It was also, the film which I had to analyze when I was appearing for my interview for the Film Institute in India in '91. And they had asked me, which is the film that compels you to come here? I said The Last Emperor. So now, can you talk about cinematography of The Last Emperor? And and that time I knew nothing about cinematography, and I had to talk about cinematography of The Last Emperor. So how the colors are used, and how the compositions are used, and how the transitions are used from one color to the other color. So yeah, so Vittorio Storaro remains definitely a very, very strong impression on me. We come to Sri V.K. Murthy. V.K. Murthy is one of the legendary cinematographers of all times, of the whole world. Fortunately, coming from India, he shot a film like Pyasa. Pyasa remains again an iconic film when it comes to cinematography. We come to another Indian name, Mr. K.K. Mahajan. Mahajan sir is again a very, very deeply respected, hugely gifted cinematographer. So like that, there are many, many, in this history of 100 years plus of this medium encompassing the whole planet, one of the most vibrant mediums on the planet. I think it may not be, I may not be doing good justice to so many talented and exceptionally gifted people who have been there.
Sorry, I was lost in between, probably because of heavy rains. There was some internet issue. So my next question to you, Amitabaji, being a cinematographer, you have lived creative moments again and again. We would like to know your experiences as an artist. How do you go deeper to find inspiration? And after this, I hand over the floor to you for our discussion.
See, as a cinematographer, one reality that we come to face or come to deal with very often, practically all the time, is essentially the whole effort of translating what is written on paper, what is in a director's mind, what is a performer or an actor doing, and then making a sense of all this and then converting it into a visual language. Because cinema is a medium of visual language. So as a cinematographer, it becomes one of our key faculties of skill and expertise, and a very, I would say, intuitive, unsaid learning that we get to transpose all these elements, diverse elements together, and then try to make one visual language out of it, which then gets edited and then gets, presented to the audiences in the form of cinema. So as a cinematographer, naturally, we are blessed and we are gifted to live many lives in a single lifetime. That's how I put it, and every shot, every scene, every day is a new chapter, is a new challenge. At the same time, if I have to recreate, because filmmaking is a very prolonged process, right? I mean, nothing gets done in a day. A film at an average may take about 40 days or 50 days or 60 days kind of a schedule to get concluded, to get completed. So naturally, as we progress further in the journey of making of that film, one is also growing, one is also learning, and hence, the results, of course, they may look very homogeneous, but at the same time, there is definitely a learning curve within the making of the project, within the making of the film. The latest of these experiences, which we have not yet discussed or shared about, is a web series which I shot called Panchayat. It is there on Amazon Prime. I wonder if some of you have seen it. So Panchayat is a series which is an 8-episode series that we shot on locations close to Bhopal, near a place called Sihor. The whole schedule was split over 2 schedules. We shot for close to 60 days, maybe more. And if we started to shoot sometime in November, December, then the shoot went up to July. So why am I saying this is that it is, for a cinematographer or for any filmmaker, every project remains a very, very prolonged journey. And within the journey, people are growing. Within the journey, one is learning. And then one tries to incorporate all the growings and all the learning progressively. And that, I feel, is a very special, it's a very, very special virtue and attribute for a cinematographer.
Hello.
Shweta, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. My next question to you, Amitabhji. Compared to Hollywood cinema and world cinema, Bollywood doesn't recognize children's cinema as responsibility. Do you think the latest trend of OTT or internet cinema can be that medium for cluttering young minds?
Shweta, we covered that question during your absence. That's why I requested you to open the floor for Sir to talk about creativity now.
Okay, so let's start. Amitabhji, please, I request you to. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So I request Amitabhji to please start with his session.
Okay, Shweta, thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this space and opportunity. Frankly speaking, I feel rather nervous talking about this subject to such a distinguished and esteemed forum of Wiki Flow Uttarakhand members. Also from our conversation, I understand that most of the members, they are business minds, and
We are art lovers too, Amitabh ji.
we
are all art lovers.
Thank you. But I'm also very scared of, of business minds. Not for any other reason, but the fact is that, me and businesses, they don't kind of align too well.
But that's where we are trying to find the inspiration, because business people need inspiration these days to go within. That's what the the situation is calling us to.
Yes, Shradha, thank you very much. But at the same time, there will be, again, before we go into the deeper subject, there will be a lot of advisors on your side who will say ke, iski mat sunna, jaise hota na parents, typically parents advise that, okay, don't listen to that person or don't listen to that person, So to a lot of business people, there will be advisors who will say, don't listen to Amitabh Singh because he will, he will misguide you, or he will inspire you to kind of, not take the business seriously. So, so I guess jokes apart. See, firstly, I believe very strongly and very deeply that every human is creative. Every human is creative. That is the core of our existence, in this world. And I feel that people who venture out into any sphere of life with any set idea or plan or determination, even in the space of businesses, are essentially extremely creative people. Naturally, every venture will need a structure for it to be implemented, for it to propagate, for it to be successful. But if you look at things a little more deeply, we will realize that within the structure, there is always a creative idea, which almost always, all the time, is present, which is somewhere making that structure relevant, which is making that structure alive. To practically or to simplistically share this thought with you, coming from a very Banaras kind of a mindset, I would say that the relationship is pretty much like body and soul, like how every soul needs a body to perform its duties. Every body is alive till the soul is there. And as soon as the soul leaves, the body is not the same. So the fact is that every human, to my mind, is creative. To me, creativity is more like an energy. It is, it is more like, one's own very inherent personal call of what is one about, what is it that one wishes to do, from the very core of one's existence, from the very core of one's realization. And to my mind, that energy or harnessing of that energy, or I would say even understanding of that energy, is creativity. A lot of time I have come across people who have questions or who have certain anxieties, curiosities about certain elements or aspects of what we may call as, as creative expression. So there may be people who would come up to me and say, "Arey, you are very, very creative. But I don't know how to paint, or I don't know how to dance, or I don't know how to sing, and I don't know how to compose music, and hence I'm not creative." I think somewhere that notion is, to my mind, is misplaced, because when we talk about painting and dance and writing and choreography and music and photography and so many of these elements, we are essentially addressing the creative expression, because dancing or singing or photography are, to my mind, they are essentially creative expressions. They may have creativity in them, but they are not creativity per se. And that is where I will come to the whole idea of it being a cycle. So, for example, to illustrate my thought a little more deeply, I would say, for example, you have a colleague, or you have a friend, or you have a family member who sings Arijit Singh songs really, really well. I'm just throwing an example that, you have a friend, or you have a colleague, or you have a family member who sings Arijit Singh songs really, really well. And by his virtue of singing that song really well, do we understand that that person is, really creative? No doubt about his or her creativity. I'm not doubting that. But if you look at it a little more objectively, you will realize that this person is essentially imitating somebody else. So the person is not really creating. The person is possibly imitating somebody really well. Now, if we come to the person who is being imitated, if we, for example, for sake of discussion, if we come to Arijit Singh, do we understand that Arijit Singh is really creative? Maybe, yes, of course. I mean, with due respect to his creativity. But he is singing a composition which has been put in place by a music director. And he is singing lyrics which is being written by a lyric writer. So does the creativity rest only on Arijit Singh, or does it go any deeper? We will realize that, oh, it goes a little deeper. So now let's come to the music director. Now, music director has composed this tune. Now, do we understand that music director is the real, true creative genius, or is there something more to it? Then we will realize that the music director has actually been somewhere, guided, instructed, inspired by the director, who has put the music director's talent and mind in a place from where this particular melody comes. Which means that the music director is essentially somewhere, somewhere getting his inspirations or her insight from that of a director. Okay, fine. So let's go a little more deeper, and let's go to the director, and let's understand whether it is the director who is the creator. And then you will realize that actually the director is trying to interpret what the writer has written on the paper, because end of the day, the director is trying to recreate something which a writer has written on paper. So fine, the creativity does not spring from there. The creativity is actually springing from something written on paper by a writer. We go to writer, and we again try to understand whether the creativity is coming from there. And then we will realize that actually the writer has put that particular piece of writing on paper by virtue of his or her own observations, his or her own relationship, his or her own understanding of the life, of society, of all the events that are happening in and around him or her. So the fact is that if we traverse the whole circle, we will realize that we eventually come back to so many elements which are interlinked in a very, very complex way, which are giving rise to creativity, which to my mind almost always is a byproduct. It is an inspiration which is traveling from one instance, one incident, one person, one observation, and then it is translating and growing as it travels farther and farther. So the fact is that, frankly speaking, I think every human is creative. All of us have creativity at the core of our life, at the core of our existence. It is an energy. It is, it is something that we channelize almost all the time for all our thoughts, all our plans, and all our actions. And I feel so long as we are alert about that aspect of our creativity, and we know how best we can channelize it and how best can we harness it for some objective, for some goal, for some reason that we wish, deeply committed about. I think it will be a very, very big source of inspiration, a source of, because you see, as I said, that creativity is energy. So if we find that energy, then it will keep, it will keep us going. It will keep us motivating at all times in all the actions that we do, in all spheres of life, and I guess in all our ventures.
Thank you, Amitabh. Komal?
So, Amitabh, the audience have a few questions lined up for you vis-a-vis their own experiences with your films and some of what you have shared. I will invite Kiranji to ask her first question.
Thank you, Komal. Amitabh, it's really been a pleasure listening to you and sharing your journey with us. It's really been wonderful and truly inspirational. Jaane Bhi To Yaro has been a movie which has a deep impact in my mind and soul for some reason. And then, Khosla Ka Ghosla. So maybe my mind is tuned for different side of things. I know many people, as a cinematographer also, and other things in Bollywood industry, who's been doing a great, great job. But with you, I realize you've been working with young children for a long, long time. What has been your experience from Cinevidya and these young children? Because it's really nice to know that you're sharing with the youth to come to change the process or to have a clear process of their thought. Will you share some opinion on this?
Yes, thank you, Karan. I think it's the question that you have asked is, frankly, it is the purpose of my life, if I can say so. If we look at things with a far larger perspective, then I would say that this audiovisual medium that we are calling as cinema is very, very new. It is very recent. It has a journey of hardly 100 years plus. So when we talk about civilizations and when we talk about cultures and when we talk about, a landscape which is so vast and which is so big, 100 years, 100 and odd years, they don't really, figure out much. That is point number one. Point number two is that since it is such a new medium and since it is such a complex medium, which is, borrowing from a lot of other mediums like technology, hence it is a medium which is liable to change very, very quickly. And by change, I mean evolve. Because it will only grow, it will only evolve. By that, what I mean is that the medium of cinema is essentially right now in its infancy. It is at a very, very early stage right now. We have still to see infinite many steps that it will take in future. We are at a very early stage right now. That's what I believe. So the fact is that as this particular medium will become more and more central to who we are as humans, as minds that are sharing all this knowledge and information and wisdom together, this medium has already become very central, will remain very central, and will definitely keep evolving rapidly and manifold as the time grows further. In my own career, in my own journey, and I am not exaggerating, ma'am, at all, that when I was a student in Film Institute, I was training to be a professional filmmaker in 91 to 94, and I would say even till 2004 or 2005, even as a practicing professional. If you would have told me that in 10 years' time or in 15 years' time, there will be a small device on which there will be 6 moving images and you will be able to talk to those images, I would have taken it to be a bit of, a far shot. But at the same time, within a very quick span of 10, 15 years, we know that technology has evolved really rapidly and things have changed. That is the second part of the pain point. The third part, and which I feel is the most vital or is the most important part of my engagement with children and Cinevidya, is the fact that our medium is the single most decisive medium which has the deepest impact on minds and especially children. So when I talk to children, and even when I talk to parents also, generally, I tell them that today, in 2020, right? And I assume that a lot of us here in the forum, we are parents. I have a daughter who's 20. So in 2020, when we say that all our children, they have become very practical and, they are, they have their own mind and, they are their own people. Even in the world in 2020, I can claim it with surety that cinema, film, is the only medium known to me for which children may still be running away from their houses and coming to a place like Mumbai, sorry. So the fact is that, nobody is running away from the house to join army, or nobody is running away from the house to run a business, or nobody is running away from the house to join the railways or, or any such other profession or glorious profession that we know of. But yes, children are still running away from their houses to become part of this world of cinema. So the fact is that this medium carries such a deep, direct, and decisive impact on young minds is something that I am very alert about, I am very, very aware about. And hence, this is a medium which they need to get equipped when they grow, because the medium will be growing with them. they will be growing rapidly, the medium will be growing rapidly, and hence they need to get equipped with this medium as they grow, so that they are able to apply this medium with all the skills, with all the sensibilities, and with all the responsibilities that come, bundled with the medium. Again, as a joke, I say that today a WhatsApp message possibly can create far more knowledge or awareness in a much larger space of society than possibly something printed in a newspaper or in a book. So the fact is that when this generation grows up, and when this generation grows up with the power of this medium, because to my mind, this is one of the most powerful medium that we have in our hand. So it's like having the power of, say, electricity. This is one example which I keep giving to most of my students in the workshops, that electricity is a phenomenally powerful medium. But over the period of generations, we have grown and we have sensitized ourselves and we have equipped ourselves how to deal with it. Similarly, this medium of audiovisual will be extremely powerful when it comes to shaping minds, when it comes to sharing information, when it comes to shaping cultures, because it is an element of our culture. So that is all the reason and my passion to engage with children and to share with them what this medium is about, what we can do with it, and how lucky they are in today's day and age to have an access to a medium as powerful as the audiovisual.
Thank you, Amitabhji, and they're really lucky to have a teacher like you. Thank you so much.
The second question, we have our joint treasurer, Ms. Charu Chauhanji. Charuji, please unmute and ask your question.
थैंक यू कोमल. नमस्कार अमिताभ जी. मेरा तो सिंपल सा क्वेश्चन है कि मुझे लगता है कि सिनेमेटोग्राफी के बगैर आज का सिनेमा तो बहुत ही सिंपल और बहुत प्लेन लगेगा. तो सिनेमेटोग्राफर्स ने तो जादू कर देते हैं कोई भी पिक्चर को बहुत अच्छा बनाने के लिए. लेकिन आपके सामने बहुत चैलेंजेस आए होंगे आपकी ये जो जर्नी रही है एज अ सिनेमेटोग्राफर. तो मैं ये जानना चाहती हूँ कि आपका सबसे चैलेंजिंग प्रोजेक्ट कौन सा था थ्रू आउट दिस जर्नी.
थैंक यू मैम, आपने बहुत मुश्किल सवाल पूछा है. पर्सनली अगर मैं बोलूं तो द गुड रोड, जो एक गुजराती फिल्म है, जो आपने ट्रेलर्स चैनल पे जो अभी शुरू में चल रहे थे, तो मेरे लिए गुड रोड की जो पूरी यात्रा थी वो सबसे मुश्किल थी. पर्सनली अगर हम कहें एक प्रोफेशनल करियर ग्राफ के हिसाब से अगर कहें, अगर मैं अपनी पर्सनल आंतरिक यात्रा जिसको कह सकते हैं, क्योंकि धीरे धीरे मतलब जैसे उम्र बढ़ती है तो सवाल अलग प्रकार के आने लगते हैं सामने. तो मेरी जो स्वतः की आंतरिक यात्रा थी, उस पड़ाव में गुड रोड का एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण हाथ था. उसके साथ साथ गुड रोड में प्रोड्यूस भी कर रहा था, और वो फिल्म जो है वो कच्छ में प्रोड्यूस हुई है, और कच्छ में वो फिल्म हमने 2011 के आसपास प्रोड्यूस की थी. तो मतलब जहाँ एक बूंद पानी ना मिले, हमने उस जगह पर जाकर के उस फिल्म को प्रोड्यूस किया था. तो एक वो जो जिम्मेदारी थी, क्योंकि मेरा हमेशा से ये मानना रहा है जब से मैं फिल्म इंस्टीट्यूट ज्वाइन किया है या जब से मैंने फिल्म मेकर प्रोफेशनल तौर पे बनने का एक निर्णय लिया है, तब से मेरा हमेशा से ये एक धारणा रही है कि भाई एक जिम्मेदारी या एक जिम्मेदार फिल्म मेकर होने के नाते हमें अपना कंटेंट खुद प्रोड्यूस करना चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर हम खुद नहीं प्रोड्यूस करेंगे तो एक बहुत ही एक ह्यूमन सी बात होती है कि आप हमेशा दूसरों की तरफ उंगली उठाते रहते हैं कि भाई अरे उसने ये नहीं किया, अरे उसने मुझे प्रेशराइज कर दिया, अरे ये अरे वो। तो जब भी मुझे मौका मिलता है मैं फिल्म प्रोड्यूस करता हूँ, क्योंकि फिर मुझे मालूम है कि उस जिम्मेदारी से किसी भी कोने में छुपा नहीं जा सकता। तो गुड रोड की यात्रा बहुत ही कठिन थी कई अंतराल पे, और बहुत हद तक उस कहानी में जो हो रहा है और बहुत हद तक मेरे जीवन में जो हो रहा है उनमें भी कहीं भी एक समानता थी। तो एक्चुअली श्वेता मैम के उस सवाल पे मैं थोड़ा छूट गया था कि तो जब मैं बहुत छोटा था, जब मैं 3 साल का था, तो मैं खुद भी मैं खुद खो गया था।
अच्छा।
जैसे गुड रोड में हुआ था, मतलब वैसा तो नहीं हुआ था, बट मैं खुद ही खो गया था। तो इसलिए उस फिल्म की काफी मुश्किलें रहीं, और स्पिरिचुअल लेवल पे, साइकोलॉजिकल लेवल पे बहुत सारे ऐसे निर्णय लेने पड़े जिनमें जो एक हम कहते हैं ना कि जीवन की जो परीक्षाएं होती हैं, तो वो जीवन की परीक्षाएं उस फिल्म से जुड़ी थी। गुड रोड के कुछ समय पहले तक, या गुड रोड तक अगर आप कहें, तो मैं प्रचार जिनको हम टेलीविजन कमर्शियल्स कहते हैं या एड फिल्म्स कहते हैं, तो मैं प्रचार के माध्यम में काफी एक्टिव था, काफी एक तरह से देखा जाए तो मतलब दुनियादारी की तरह से देखा जाए तो शायद काफी सक्सेसफुल था। मुझे लगता नहीं है कि भारत का कोई ऐसा ब्रांड होगा जो मैंने शूट ना किया हो, या तो और प्रचार की जो दुनिया है उसमें काफी चमक दमक है, काफी रोशनी है, और चूंकि आप लोग बिजनेस से जुड़े हैं तो उसमें काफी मतलब फाइनेंशियली वो काफी अच्छी दुनिया रही है, हमेशा से रही है। तो एक ऐसी जगह पे जहां पे मैं ऑलरेडी काफी सक्सेसफुल माना जा सकता था, वहां से जब गुजराती सिनेमा मतलब सॉरी मैं हंस रहा हूं, तो 2010 में अगर आप जाके किसी को पूछिए कि भाई मैं गुजराती सिनेमा बनाना चाहता हूं, तो वो लोग शायद आपको थोड़ा शक की नजर देखना शुरू कर देंगे, क्योंकि उस समय भाग्यवश अगर देखा जाए तो उस समय गुजराती फिल्म इंडस्ट्री की जो एक परिस्थिति थी वो कुछ बहुत अच्छी नहीं थी। न तो उस प्रकार की फिल्में बनती थी, न उस प्रकार के सब्जेक्ट्स थे, न उस प्रकार के मेकर्स थे, न उस प्रकार का ऑडियंस था। तो गुड रोड की तैयारी करने में, फिल्म की तैयारी करने में हमें करीब 3 साल लग गए, और उसका काफी बड़ा हिस्सा एक्चुअली शहरों में जाकर के, इंटीरियर्स में जाकर के लोगों से मिलना, बात करना, उनके कल्चरल एस्पेक्ट को समझना। गुड रोड की पूरी यात्रा में मुझे करीब 5 साल लग गए होंगे, और आज मैं थोड़ा गर्व से या थोड़ा सा फख्र से ये कह सकता हूं कि शायद गुजरात के कई भाग और कई गांव और कई शहर, या गुजरात के काफी हिस्से मैंने डायरेक्टली ऑन फुट, ऑन ग्राउंड देखे होंगे, उनको एक्सपीरियंस किया होगा, जो मुमकिन है कि बहुत सारे गुजरात के लोगों ने खुद ना किया हो, क्योंकि हम असाइनमेंट पे थे, हम प्रोजेक्ट पे थे, हम कहीं एक जगह रुकते नहीं थे, हम हम हमेशा ट्रैवल करते रहते थे। तो काफ़ी मुश्किलें आई, और आज हम गुड रोड की चर्चा शायद सिर्फ इसलिए कर रहे हैं क्योंकि उसको कहीं पे एक मकाम मिला, उसको कहीं पे एक प्लेटफॉर्म मिला। बट यकीन मानिए, जब हम वो फिल्म बना रहे थे तो दूर दूर तक इस बात का कोई आभास या कोई ऐसा विश्वास नहीं था कि इस फिल्म का क्या होगा, क्योंकि होता यही है कि इस तरह की जो फिल्में होती हैं जिनके पीछे कोई बहुत अधिक सुपर स्ट्रक्चर, सपोर्टिव स्ट्रक्चर नहीं रहता है, तो उनकी यात्रा जो है वो हमेशा एक क्वेश्चन मार्क के साथ ही रहती है कि होगी नहीं होगी, कंप्लीट होगी नहीं होगी, बनेगी, बनने के बाद क्या होगा। तो इन सारी समस्याओं को हमने किसी तरह से पूरा किया।
Thank you so much, sir, and wish you all the best and success for your next project.
Thank you, Chara.
Anuradha ji has a question. First part of a question you've already answered, but there's the second part of the question that she would like to ask you. Anuradha ji.
Hello, Amitabh ji.
हेलो अनुराधा मैम, गुड इवनिंग।
गुड इवनिंग सर। मेरा तो ये क्वेश्चन है कि आप इंडिया को वेयर डज इंडिया स्टैंड इन दिस फील्ड एज कंपेयर टू द वेस्ट? आपको कैसा लगता है, मतलब क्या लगता है कि आपके अनुसार कि इंडिया वेयर डज इट स्टैंड?
जी, थैंक यू अनुराधा मैम। सी द थिंग इज कि जो ऑडियो विजुअल की हम बात कर रहे हैं, सिनेमा की बात कर रहे हैं, या आप मान लीजिए हम एक वेब सीरीज की बात कर रहे हैं, तो जैसा हमने पहले डिस्कस किया कि जाहिर है कि ये जो भी हम कंटेंट बना रहे हैं, ये हमारे कल्चर का, हमारी संस्कृति का, हमारे रहन सहन का, ये इसका ही एक समझिए रिफ्लेक्शन है, ये इसकी ही एक अनुभूति है, या इसका ही एक एक्सप्रेशन। तो मैं तो ये मानता हूं कि भारत में हमारी जो कंटेंट मेकिंग की जो एबिलिटी है वो विश्व में सबसे अधिक है। ये इस बात का भी एक तरह से कहिए प्रमाण इससे भी है कि हर साल हम करीब 1000 फिल्में बना रहे हैं, जो हिंदी में और बाकी और भी प्रांतीय भाषाओं में, बांग्ला हो गया, गुजराती हो गया, तमिल, तेलुगु, कन्नड़ हो गया, तो हम 1000 से अधिक फिल्में बनाते हैं। और जहाँ तक कि टेलीविजन नेटवर्क्स पे चैनल्स का सवाल है और उनमें चलते हुए टेलीविजन सीरीज की बात है, या ऑनलाइन कंटेंट में OTT पे वेब सीरीज की बात है, तो मुझे लगता है कि हम कंटेंट बहुत बना रहे हैं, और बहुत मुमकिन है कि दुनिया में सबसे अधिक कंटेंट हम बना रहे हो। तो मुझे लगता है कि विश्व में उस हिसाब से देखा जाए तो हम, वॉल्यूम के हिसाब से देखा जाए तो हम सबसे आगे हैं, और काफी एफिशिएंटली बना रहे हैं। जी, अब हम आ जाते हैं क्वालिटी पे।
यस सर।
तो क्वालिटी पे मैं क्वालिटी को अब 2 भागों में थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे विभाजित कर दूंगा। इसमें थोड़ा सा मेरी सेल्फिशनेस भी इन्वॉल्व है। और इस मुद्दे को हम अक्सर डिस्कस करते हैं। सेल्फिशनेस इसलिए इन्वॉल्व है कि अगर आप देखेंगे तो जैसा आई थिंक चारू मैम ने सिनेमेटोग्राफी काफी कारगर हो गई है। तो अगर हम बहुत गौर से देखेंगे, खासतौर पे पिछले 20 सालों में या पिछले 20-25 सालों में अगर हम थोड़ा गौर से देखेंगे, तो आप रियलाइज करेंगे कि हमारी जो टेक्निक्स हैं, चाहे वो सिनेमेटोग्राफी की हो, चाहे वो साउंड डिजाइन की हो, चाहे वो म्यूजिक की हो, चाहे वो, तो इस तरह की जो टेक्निक्स हैं, वो टेक्निक्स जो हैं वो एट पार विद द वर्ल्ड आ गई हैं। मतलब बहुत मुमकिन है कि हमारी जो टेक्नोलॉजी है, हमारी जो टेक्निक्स हैं, वो दुनिया के किसी भी दूसरे फिल्म मेकिंग कम्युनिटी या किसी भी दूसरे फिल्म मेकिंग कल्चर के टेक्निक्स के करीब हों, या उतनी ही हो, या हो सकता है कि उससे अच्छी भी हो। इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं। तो टेक्निक वाइज हम शायद बहुत रैपिडली और बहुत अच्छे से ग्रो कर गए, लेकिन जहां जैसे ही सवाल कंटेंट का आ जाता है, भाई टेक्निक इज लाइक अ वेसल, राइट? टेक्निक जो है वो तो एक बॉक्स है, उस बॉक्स के अंदर की जो सामग्री है, जो कंटेंट है, वो जो कंटेंट है वो हमारे कल्चर का रिफ्लेक्शन है, जिसको के कई मर्तबा फिल्म मेकर्स ओवर सिंप्लीफिकेशन में कह देते हैं कि भाई हम तो वही बना रहे हैं जो ऑडियंस को चाहिए, जो एक बहुत गैर जिम्मेदाराना स्टेटमेंट है, क्योंकि हम पहले डिस्कस कर चुके हैं कि भाई सिनेमा इज अ मीडियम ऑफ एजुकेशन। तो एज अ फिल्म मेकर, एक फिल्मकार के हिसाब से मुझे अपना ऑडियंस एजुकेट करना चाहिए। मैं तो इतने स्ट्रॉन्ग एजुकेशनल मीडियम को लेके हाथ में बैठा हुआ, मैं तो कह ही नहीं सकता हूं कि ऑडियंस को ये चाहिए, क्योंकि मैं ऑडियंस एजुकेट कर रहा हूं। तो कहीं हद तक, बहुत हद तक एक जिम्मेदारी जहां पर एज फिल्म मेकर्स हम पीछे छूट जाते हैं, वो ये है कि हम अपना ऑडियंस नहीं एजुकेट कर रहे हैं। क्योंकि अगर हमने अपना ऑडियंस एक एक्सीलेंस, एक परफेक्शन के लिए एजुकेट कर दिया और वो एक एक्सीलेंट या परफेक्ट प्रोडक्ट हमसे मांगेंगे, तो हमें वो क्रिएट करके उनको देना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि हम कर सकते हैं, वो काबिलियत हमारे अंदर है, वो टेक्नोलॉजी हमारे पास। तो ये एक थोड़ा सा गिव एंड टेक वाला सिचुएशन यहाँ पे आ जाता है। और इसको मैं थोड़ा सा एक क्योंकि बात कई बार क्या होता है कि बात चुभनी चाहिए, और मैं अक्सर चुभती हुई बातें कह देता हूं। तो मैं लोगों को अक्सर ये कहता हूं कि भाई अगर आप गौर से देखिएगा, तो हमारे जो, हम अगर अभी हिंदी की बात करें, तो हमारे जो सो कॉल्ड बिगेस्ट ऑफ द सुपरस्टार्स हैं, यहाँ पे अगर मुझे इजाजत हो तो मैं नाम लूंगा कि भाई चाहे वो श्री आमिर खान साहब हों, चाहे वो श्री शाहरुख खान साहब हों, चाहे वो सलमान खान साहब हों, चाहे वो अमिताभ बच्चन साहब हों, चाहे कोई भी ये जो बिगेस्ट ऑफ द सुपरस्टार्स अक्षय कुमार साहब हों, ये वही लोग हैं। इनके 25 साल पहले की फिल्में आप देखिए और इनकी आज की आप फिल्में देखिए, तो उसमें जमीन आसमान का फर्क दिखेगा। लोग नहीं बदले हैं, ये लोग नहीं बदले। जो बदला है वो इनके पीछे का एक पूरा तंत्र जो है, उस तंत्र में राइटर्स हैं, डायरेक्टर्स हैं, म्यूजिक डायरेक्टर्स हैं, सिनेमाटोग्राफर्स हैं, कॉस्ट्यूम डिजाइनर्स हैं, मेकअप, हेयर स्टाइल, एक्शन डायरेक्टर्स। देयर आर 500 मोर पीपल हु हैव रियली मेड दिस चेंज पॉसिबल। तो ये जो परिवर्तन आया है, वो परिवर्तन इतने तमाम सारे लोगों के लाने की वजह से आया है। और मेरा ये बहुत दृढ़ मानना है कि ये जो परिवर्तन, ये जो कॉस्ट्यूम डिजाइनर्स और मेकअप एंड हेयर स्टाइलिस्ट और ये जो लोग हैं, मैं ये मानता हूं कि ये आज दुनिया की श्रेणी में है। आज हमारे पास ऐसे टैलेंट हैं, ऐसे लोग हैं जो शायद वर्ल्ड में हर जगह एट पार, इक्वल होंगे। हम वहीं पे शायद थोड़ा सा लैग बिहाइंड कर जाते हैं जब ये इंटरप्रिटेशन आना शुरू हो जाता है कि भाई ऑडियंस को ये चाहिए। तो जब ऑडियंस को ये चाहिए वाला एक सवाल आ जाता है, तो हर आदमी फिर चीजों को एक अलग नजरिए से देखने लगता है, और फिर ये मुमकिन है कि हम एक जो कलेक्टिव आउटपुट सामने ला पाते हैं, वो शायद दुनिया का जो सबसे अच्छा काम हो और हमारा जो सबसे अच्छा काम हो, वो शायद फिर मैच ना कर पाए। क्योंकि वहां पे एक तो जैसा कि मैम आप जानते हैं कि जो पावर ऑफ कलेक्टिवनेस है, तो एक कलेक्टिव पावर चीजों को एक बहुत ही एक्सीलेंट डायरेक्शन में भी धकेल सकता है, या एक कलेक्टिव पावर चीजों को थोड़ा सा एक पैसिव मोड में भी कि अरे चलो क्या फायदा है, अरे भाई ठीक है हो गया ना। सो दैट इज समवेयर देयर वेयर वी नीड टू गेट अवर कल्चरल बियरिंग्स, जो हमारी एक कल्चरल बियरिंग है कि चलो हो गया ना, अरे बन गया ना, बस ठीक है ना, अरे इसमें तो हम सेफ हो गए ना, अरे इसमें तो बस 500 करोड़ का तो धंधा निकल गया ना। सब अंतिम अनलेस हम उससे जब तक कल्चरली उन चैलेंजेस को पार नहीं करेंगे, तब तक बहुत मुमकिन है कि हम शायद एज अ होल, मतलब एज अ कल्चरल कंपोनेंट एज वेल एज अ स्किल कंपोनेंट, as well as a technique component, शायद हम as a whole पूरी दुनिया में शायद compete करने में थोड़ा मुश्किल फेस करें.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And my best wishes to you for your future.
Thank you, ma'am. You are really kind. Thank you, ma'am.
Captain Mohit Joshi, could you please unmute and ask the question?
Thank you, Komalji. Hello, am I audible?
Mohit, hi, good evening. Yes, please, we can hear you.
Yeah, hi, sir. How are you? It's been a long time.
Hi, Mohit. Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you so much.
And welcome to Uttarakhand virtually, otherwise. Once again. Okay.
Really?
Now, cutting a small prelude to the question which is coming out from my mind is that if we look at the present the cinema, Indian cinema, it is somehow the portrayal of more of the male feelings which are coming across, because I think that predominantly the people who are driving the industry are males. That is one. Now, women being the beholder of all the traditional art, culture, heritage, rituals, which form part of a happiness index in our souls in the entire habitat. Do you think that there is a now good road turnaround required for a cultural revolution within the industry, wherein more of women and children-centric ideology is taken around, which creates something more, movies or content which is filling this void. Otherwise, as you has rightly mentioned initially, that the OTT also or the mainstream cinema which is being provided to us, there is no value add for the women or the children who otherwise happen to be driving the consciousness of the entire society. So do you think that there is a vast requirement wherein the industry itself has to change itself?
Mohit, good evening. I think this is the pain point, and you have posed a very, very pertinent and a very strong question here. I believe I would be facing a lot of women members right now on this panel of discussion. And I would say, I would share my observations here. Again, an observation which can be very painful and can be a very bitter pill, so as to say, to swallow. You have somewhere indicated that the media content production industry is a male-dominated industry. I think this notion is possibly a little outdated, and the fact that a lot of women are in very strong and very decisive and in critically decision-making positions and capacities of content production in our country for more than 20 years. Now, to explain what I'm saying symptomatically, and I think these two symptomatic examples will be able to illustrate what I wish to communicate, is example number one of Ekta Kapoor, who has been a woman leading the television content production industry for close to 20 years. I am not sure whether her being a woman and a captain, I mean, Ekta Kapoor is an institution in herself, right? So her being a captain of an entire content production, industry, whether that has somewhere decisively impacted the kind of content that was being produced or that is still being produced for either television or for OTTs. So that is example number one. Now, if we come to OTT, and it's a fairly recent, it's a new baby, then as you may know, that one of the most successful producers of OTT platform is Anushka, and she has just produced a program called Patal Ghar. Now, again, I am not sure. So, if we get into the critique of Patal Ghar, we will again go back into the same, analytical thought space of it being extremely male dominating, and coming from a sensibility space which is completely patriarchal, so as to say. But if you look at the producer, then the producer is a woman. And the producer is not only a woman, she is also a hugely successful woman. So the fact is whether having women going to change the kind of content we are making. With two of these symptomatic answers or examples, what I'm trying to say is that it is not likely. Because there are many other producers like Ekta Kapoor, or there are many other producers like Anushka Sharma, who are occupying various orbits of this system of content production. What needs to fundamentally change is the sensibility fabric, is the cultural fabric of us as a whole, and it is not an easy way. There is no easy path to it. But I am hoping that the coming generation will be alert about it and will bring in the change that we are discussing about and that we wish to see in front of us. That is by children. When we engage with Cinevidya with children, because the next lot which comes as content creators, as media makers, I wish and I hope that they come forth with a lot more responsibility, with a lot more alertness and awareness of who they are, what they are doing, and what can be the impact of what they are doing.
Thank you, Amitabh-ji.
Thank you. Thank you.
One last question, Amitabh-ji, from my side.
Yes.
You had once mentioned about a beautiful concept of a painting wall that you had created for your daughter. And being a parent, and there are many parents amongst the viewers also, who would like to really hear that incident of yours and the concept behind it. If you can please share it with us.
Okay, thank you, Shweta. Thank you so much. See, I have a daughter, and earlier we used to stay in a different house, and in Mumbai the houses are they're kind of small and they're compact. So one day when me and my wife Shanti, when we saw, and that time our child, her name is Aditi, that time she would be maybe about, say, 3 months. I mean, she was still crawling, so maybe 4 months or 5 months old. So one day we saw, on one of the sections of the wall that there was a very faint, kind of a scribble that was there. And then by looking at that scribble, we realized that it is something which Aditi has done, because it was matching her height. it was about, say, 8 inches off the ground. So we saw that and we got very, very we got very emotional about it, that, oh wow, look what she has done. And from that day onwards, we left that wall to be her wall, in the sense that she was made free, not in any direct sense of an instruction, but we knew that this is a wall that is hers and she can do whatever she wants with that wall. And then eventually so happened that as she kept growing, the elevation of her scribbling kept changing, and eventually she kind of made the whole wall to be her wall of expression. And fortunately for us as a family, it is something that was magical, so much so that even in the room that you see today, the door was done by her. This wall is her wall. So the fact is that we never somehow directly or indirectly kind of made her aware that these are things which are, not done. I mean, she was free. I mean, if you can look at that, she must have done something. She wouldn't have liked it, so she kind of, did stuff. So the fact is that, as we grow physically, naturally our, the reach of our body also grows in a way. And I very strongly believe that the reach of our body somehow also translates into the reach of our mind. So we never meant things to be out of reach for her. So so wherever she could reach and whatever she wanted to do, she and we would only appreciate, and we would only, kind of find beauty and glory in whatever she would choose to do. And that was the thought. And we feel very fortunate and very blessed to have a child who, who is, who has this mind, and who is now an adult, and I would say a fine adult.
Thank you, Amitabh ji. It's been a very, very nice session. Lovely talking to you. I would now like to invite our senior vice chairperson, Ms. Komal Batra, to say her vote of thanks.
Thank you, Gauri ma'am.
Thank you so much, Gauri. So this has been a pleasure. The way you have described the creative cycle back to us, like one inspiring the other, and eventually it's just a circle of hands and ideas and minds working together to bring out the best of what we can showcase. And also the parallel that you drew, that whatever we are around us, whatever we have mostly around us, is what we bring out in our creativity. How the environment conditions us and inspires us or enhances our creativity as well. So thank you for bringing that perspective.
Just to encapsulate one more time here at this point, that you have said, because I think that has been the moot reason for us to, kind of reach to that.
Yes.
And one very clear thing that I would like to share with all the esteemed and distinguished members here is that creativity is an energy. It is the core of our energy. And to my experience and knowledge and belief, it is within each of us as humans. It is what we choose to do with that energy. It is for us to realize as to what that energy is, and then how do we, channelize it and structure it for a larger good, for the good of the humanity, for the good of society. So I think all of us must understand that all of us are creative. All of us are gifted and born with that energy. And now it is up to us, our responsibility as to what we can do with it.
So much, sir, for encapsulating it again in a summary for us once again. May I request the IT team to express our gratitude through this memento on the screen for sir.
Oh, wow, this is lovely. It's so beautiful. Awesome. Super. Super. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I express my heartfelt gratitude for Shweta Kulbe, our Chief Coordinator for Culture and Heritage Committee for Flow Uttarakhand. Thank you, Shweta, for bringing Sir to our platform and enhancing our awareness about the close network and closed cycle of creativity that runs within our genes. Thank you, Shweta. I extend a very, very warm thank you to our immediate past chairperson, Ms. Nazia Yusuf Isuddin. Thank you for being with us, Nazia, and thank you for taking over in between and manning our platform, our mic, and engaging Sir in a wonderful question. And we all benefited so beautifully from it. Thank you so much, Nazia.
Komal, I would like to request IT team to present a memento for our media sponsor. May I request IT? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kiranji. Thank you. I thank everyone present here, viewers from Flow Uttarakhand, from Flow Pan India, and other guests and dignitaries. I extend a thank you note to Brijesh Singh sir, the retired DGP Police from Delhi. Thank you, all of you. I hope to see you again on the 31st for our next engagement with you all. Thank you very much. IT team, may I request you to put our, yes, the Flow Harela drive.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.